All right, so to start this off, this debate about 2 months ago was about property, or was about violence from the parties, and what was brought up during it was we were talking about Black Lives Matter. In that initial, in the argument, I was arguing that Black Lives Matter was committing violent crimes against property. The judgment that was brought forth was that property violence being violence, like a violent crime, that's new and silly. Well, now we're going to go through the actual definitions of that. So what Black Lives Matter was doing, what I addressed was they were violently attacking vehicles, they were stealing vehicles, and they were burning down buildings, arson being the largest one here. That's factually false. Now, property violence and violent crimes are two different things. There's three different major categories of crimes. They are definitely two different things, but one can easily carry over into the other, and it depends on the context of what's going on. We have court rulings, we have precedent, we have law. So first we're going to start out with our the clause here is threat to a person. Threat to a person has never been used by a court, is not part of the law. It was just something made up in the moment. What we actually look at here is 18 U.S.C. Code 16, both A and B, a crime of violence, an offense that has an element, an use, an attempted to or threatened use of physical force against a person or their property, not and their property. This is absent of threats. Now, if we go through different times when people have been convicted, I have precedent in here as well for that. What this means is, well, we also have limits. What we have in Sessions versus DeMaya are the limits on this. If somebody breaks into your house and breaking and entering, that is not considered a violent crime because the intent of their crime is a property crime. But if somebody goes to your house when you're not home and burns it down or throws grenades inside, when you're not home with no threat against the person, that is legally considered violent crime. 18 U.S.C. 844. That is a violent crime to burn down a house even though nobody is in it. That is factually true. There is no disputing it. We have tons of legal precedent. We have the Seventh Circuit Court backing it up. Under these definitions of violent crimes, we can look at burglary. Burglary is considered by the FBI to be a violent crime despite the fact that it's a property crime because of the nature of somebody could get harmed in the burglary. There's a lot of nuance to this. Just because it's initially the property crime does not mean the context of the crime cannot turn it into a violent crime. And through this, I will give laws, I will give precedent, I will give court rulings, and I will give examples to show that I am factually correct here. Now, the bad blood between Let's Chief and I was on truce last week when we came in here and smashed that IP debate, so let's hopefully keep that up. I have nothing against the dude. Hopefully he has nothing against me, but he's factually incorrect here, and I have the law on my side to prove it.
Cool. So I hope the judges paid as much attention as I did during that open, because literally after he said the words threatened use of physical force, you said that's absent a threat. That was obvious. I don't know if you caught that. But then also, after talking about burglary and that being a violent crime, you said because someone could get harmed, and the yes, you did. You literally just said it. Run the tape back. You said you were rambling. I know it was
That was
kind of,
burglary in
trying to
particular.
rush it through. Yeah, right. So you said because someone could get harmed in the act of doing it, and you just literally said it plain as day. So yeah, I agree that if someone could get hurt in the act, or there's a threat of someone getting hurt, like even first responders, like in the case of a fire, like yeah, that could be classified as a violent act. Thank you for agreeing with me.
A violent crime is, if this is cross, I'm supposed to be able to respond, I'm pretty sure. A violent crime is because first responders could show up and get hurt. So if I do vandalism and first responders show up to wipe the vandalism off the wall and the wall crumbles, vandalism is now a violent crime or no?
Do you think there's
That's
as
your
much
logic.
of well, let me answer. You asked a
As much?
question.
No, it doesn't matter
Do
at
you
all.
think
It's just a
that
threat of
there's
it.
as much of a threat from inhaling the fumes from lots of spray paint as there is from having to respond to a fire, Tyler?
No, it doesn't matter if it's as much. It's just the threat of it existing at all would make it a violent crime.
Really, Tyler?
Yes, really. That's how the law works. You're using a
Really,
colloquial
Tyler?
definition. I'm using a legal definition. Yes, that's how the law works. I'm giving you U.S. codes. I'm giving you Supreme Court and Seventh Court rulings. Yes, that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that those things could be violent because there's an inherent threat to human life in the course of responding to a fire. So Tyler just couldn't help himself.
Sure. Time is going, so get it on.
Yeah, go ahead. Tyler just couldn't help himself.
I did a debate with him, and one of the judges, I was talking about which party is more violent, the left or the right. I kept bringing up all this black.
As though I'm defending an argument that property damage is never violent crime. Go ahead, play clip 1.
I did a debate with him, and one of the judges, I was talking about which party is more violent, the left or the right. I kept bringing up all this Black Lives Matter incidents and how it doesn't fit into like the right definition, so everyone just excludes it, but it's technically violent crime. And the judge said, "Oh, trying to say property crime is violent crime, that's a new one for me. You lose because of that." So now he and I, that judge and I, are having a debate that property crime could absolutely be a violent crime, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I did a debate with him, and one of the judges, I was talking about which party.
Yeah, all right,
so
and
we're
then
going
this
to
is
be
the
doing
second
a debate
clip.
on this, and he tried to change the prompt
so
a few times
pause really quick. So remember that mischaracterization, property crime is a violent crime. That's a new one to me. You lose the debate. Please remember that as we go forward.
Okay.
Next is
statement instead of an is statement, because once I linked, so we're going to be doing a debate on this, and he tried to change the prompt a few times to an ought statement instead of an is statement, because once I linked him the law showing him I was correct and started linking him court precedences showing him I was correct, he started squirming because the dude can't admit he's wrong, essentially. So
yeah,
we're gonna have a fun one.
Yep. So pause again, please. So, he's just not representing the property itself. He then goes on to acknowledge that property and crime and violent crime are distinct. And in the same misrepresentation of the prompt, reiterates that using the example of arson, that property crime can't be violent crime. Go with 2A, please.
Specifically about property damage being included in the definition of violence.
Not generally, but it can be. Property and violent crime are two separate things in terms of categories, but there's a lot of carryover. It depends on the specifics. If I go burn down a building that's empty, it falls under, let me find it. It is 18 USC 844I, that burning down a building with fire or explosives is a property crime that's also qualified as a violent crime. So property crime can be violent crime. And his argument is it has to include the threat against a person in order for a property crime to be a violent crime.
No, you can let the next one let it play into the next one. Go ahead. He actually agrees with the host.
It's like, I think if you do an action
who actually
risky
says
enough that someone
when it comes to threatening a human life, that does seem like it's characterized different. Go ahead.
Because that someone could be harmed, right? Which would be the same thing as the arson thing, right? If you do an explosion, if you do an arson, I would think those are kind of treated in a similar way, in the sense that even if no one was harmed and maybe the building was empty, did you know that for sure? Do you know the fire couldn't have possibly spread? Do you know the explosion radius? Like, there's a bunch of things that could have happened in these cases. I'm assuming that's why that's treated differently than like breaking a building and like by throwing a rock through a window, right? Because it's an inherently dangerous act to light something on fire or like explode something.
So throwing a rock through the window, like happens in a lot of riots. Tyler would just, nod along and lose the debate right before we came on stream.
So thank you for posting my W's. That lines up with pretty much my entire introduction that you just posted. But I'm going to quote what you said on the stream. Back to Tyler. Property violence. That's a new one for me. I like how you tried to make that work, but in the end, it's just silly. Is that not what you said? Exact words verbatim.
Exact words verbatim.
Yes or no?
I didn't say. Did I say it was just silly?
Yes, exact words verbatim. I typed it down. I watched. Okay, I typed it down verbatim. Anyone can go check the last stream. That's exactly what you said, and that's exactly what I quoted when I was on there. So there's no bad faith.
So we've heard your characterization of that debate twice. But what happened was, the prompt was the Republican Party of America is more prone to violence than the Democratic Party, correct? So we heard Castle list off a slew of right-wing fueled ideology shootings, and you were completely, it completely does. You had some preamble, you got to misrepresent this debate twice, so now it's my turn to talk about it. So we got Castle list. Okay, well, it's actually cross-ex. So you're
filibustering. I asked you a direct question, and you're going off topic to a different debate. That's verbatim what you said. You said that was bad faith.
Yeah, I was supposed to be granted.
You're lying. You won't even accept your own words. You won't even accept. You're saying the words that I quoted you verbatim were wrong. You're not even accepting what you said.
It's silly. This is important. It's silly because it's silly to compare some amount of dollars of property damage to a pile of bodies that Castle brought when trying to demonstrate that the Republican Party is more violent than the Democratic Party.
Okay,
You wanted
I
to
get,
use
I get
2
you
months-
feel that way.
You wanted to
but you're
use 2 months
factually
of
wrong.
riots
Reclaiming my time.
where there
Reclaiming my
were-
time.
no, okay, go
Reclaiming my
ahead.
time. This
is
isn't the
both of
question
our
I asked
time.
you. Reclaiming my time. This isn't the question I asked you. What I asked you was, were those your words? You said no. I quoted you verbatim. You're
I said I
lying.
didn't think
That's
so.
bad faith. You are
Oh,
dishonest.
no. It's bad faith. You completely
Time's up.
misrepresented the prompt of the debate earlier.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I actually admitted, I said you could have taken the compliment and the L. I said it was a brilliant stroke of rhetoric that after essentially you were clearly falling short of delivering on any metric on par with the countless acts of violence ratted off by Castle. This was clearly a Hail Mary. And you said that
Your
you didn't
point's so
see
correct,
any
you have to lie
instances
about
of
it.
you said you didn't see any instances of right-wing violence, even altogether combined, even coming close to the damage done after George Floyd died. And that alone tells you that hundreds of thousands of people committing billions of dollars in property violence, a phrase that you never uttered before in that debate, was directly linked to the Democrats.
Just because property violence is a violent crime according to the law.
Correct.
According
It
to
is.
judges, according to the courts. Yes.
It
so
is,
that's
but you were trying to make it out that all of the damage done in the riots was property violence, and you were trying to use that to prove that those 2 months of riots make the Democrats more
Making shit up.
likely. No, that's literally what
You're
happened.
just making shit up. You denied
were-
your own
you were
words, and now
creative
you're
in your
making up
rhetoric, but
words
you
I
were
never
wrong.
said.
You didn't
You're
lose the
denying your own
you
words. Now
didn't
you're making
lose-
up shit I didn't
You
say.
didn't lose the debate because I reject the concept of property violence altogether. We saw
Okay,
the
again, 18
misrepresentation a minute
USD
ago.
844.
That's fine, I don't
burning down a
listen,
building with
that's
nobody
fine.
in it. Is that property? Is that a violent crime or not?
Yes.
Then you don't need the threat of a person because you're burning down an empty building. That's considered
it's
a
an
violent
inherent
crime.
threat on life, and that's
So if
just a
somebody
fact of the matter.
accidentally lights a fire and the police come there and the ambulance comes there and they have the same
An
exact threat against
accident?
it, yes.
You're comparing
Is that
an
still a
accident to
violent crime?
arson?
It's
No,
not. That's
an
not how
accident-
violent crimes work.
No, an
Violent
accidental
crimes
fire.
don't
You're
work
right.
like
An
that.
accidental arson, an accidental fire is not arson. You're correct.
This is just complete ignorance of the law.
100%.
You're making shit up. This is a colloquial definition
you
that
know
does
this.
not
We
work.
just
According
watched
to
you
United
say
States
it and
versus
agree to it.
Ferguson, just watch
a
it. United
commission
States
of a
versus
property
Ferguson,
crime.
7th Circuit Court decision using 18 U.S. 3 844I said that lighting a building on fire, even though there's no threat to human life because the building is empty, is a
Because
violent
there's
crime.
a blatant disregard for life.
Okay, that's not the prompt. That it's a disregard. You said a threat, not a disregard. Those are two different things. You're conflating and you're lying about your own words and my words from the previous debate.
Disregard
It's
is the
dishonest and bad
absolute
faith.
minimum.
You are incapable of
Oh,
telling the
please.
truth.
You're
You
you're
lied
crazy
about
right
your
now.
own words, and you're accusing me of lying when you're making shit up. I quoted you verbatim. You said,
I
no,
think
that's not
you
what I
sticking
said.
on the lying about your own words when I was just unsure of the exact quote from a debate that happened 2 months ago that you're clearly still obsessing over isn't bad faith. I'm
Bro,
sorry.
I said
just don't
no.
remember
You
my
kept
exact
asking me.
quote. I'm
We got
sorry,
into a
I don't
chat about
remember the
IP,
exact
and you
quote.
argued about this for like an
didn't argue
hour. We
about it.
moved on.
Horseradish said I trolled you and we laughed about it. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
fine.
yeah. I'm obsessed
You
about
got
it, but you were the one that was
completely
bringing it up over and over. That makes sense. This is projection.
Yeah, I brought
because
it
you're
up as a
dishonest.
joke.
Yeah, it's a joke when you do it. It's obsessed when I do it. You're fucking dishonest. That's all this is you're dishonest and incapable of admitting when you're wrong.
We'll let
You
the
just
audience
granted,
decide. You're so
you
worked
just,
up.
you
You're
just
so worked up.
granted 18 USC 844I means no threat against a person from the actual crime itself can still be considered a violent crime. That's the debate right there. You are factually
What did you
correct.
agree to with Castle that these things are treated differently because you don't know if the fire could spread or first responders
That
could
was
get
confluent.
hurt or that's what I meant. Sorry.
He was theory crafting,
You-
and I nodded to what he said. That doesn't mean I was saying you're 100% correct.
So you
You're
disagree.
disingenuous. No, I don't. Those are some.
But yeah, of course you don't disagree.
Those are
It's
some, but
obvious
not,
you
I'm
don't
not nodding
disagree.
on and saying
That's
that's my
why you're
line of
saying an
logic.
accidental
I'm
fire
not
is
nodding
different.
on. That's
An
not my
accidental
line of
fire is
logic
different
that
from
I'm
an arson.
arguing.
You
You're
agree to
taking
the-
me
you
riffing with a
agree.
couple buddies and pretending like that's the argument I'm making here because, again, you can't stop lying.
What we watched was you talk about how you had a 10-page document and 2 pages you were going to talk about, and then the fucking joy wiped from your face when you admitted or when you saw Confluence destroy your argument in fucking 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah, that must be it. You're reading my mind well while lying. You lied about what you said. You lied about what I said. Now you're just making shit up again. I'm giving you U.S.
We
code.
watched it.
I'm
We
giving
all
you,
watched it.
unless you won't even let me
I'm
finish the
saying
statement
some
because if I am allowed
I'm
to
saying-
talk about the actual law, I am
I already
100%
said-
correct.
I
You
already said
cannot
some
refute
property
it. Yes,
crimes are violent.
Then that's the point. Without
The
a threat
debate
to a
isn't
human
some
being.
property crimes aren't violent or there's no property crime
The
that's
debate
violent.
is without the threat
You
of
misrepresented
to a
it twice.
being.
I don't know if you're still
The
confused
debate
about your
prompt is without
misrepresentation
the threat
when you
to
were
a
trying to
human being.
brag to your
Without the
fucking
direct
friends
threat
about
to a
it
human
and
being.
misrepresent
You're
it, but that's just
lying
not the
again.
case.
Could you please restate the prompt for us, Horseradish? Because I'm literally giving it over and over, and this
Property
dude can't
damage
accept that he's wrong.
qualifies as violence, even without threat to human safety.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
threat to human safety in an
When you
arson.
burn down an empty building, there's no threat to human safety from the crime. Now, if the first responders show up to put out the fire, there is a threat to them. But that's not the crime. That's the aftermath. That's a completely different fucking thing. You're conflating two things because you don't know the law. I'm giving you Supreme Court precedent, Seventh Court rulings,
Who's
and the
charging
laws,
them?
and you cannot refute them. The government.
Who's charging them?
Every
With
fucking
what?
president. This has been
If-
going on since the 80s.
The government's charging them for an
Yes.
abandoned property
Yes.
because their first responders could get hurt.
No, because it's a violent crime. The action itself is a violent crime. You have no
Okay,
idea
so
what
we'll
the law
not think
is.
about what violent means, and we'll just say good enough.
We know what violent
crime.
means. It's defined in the law.
Yeah, as
A
threat
violent
to
crime is
safety.
defined in the law that I
A
read off
threat
in my
of force.
introduction. You're just
Yeah, a
ignoring
threat of
it.
force
You're
that you
ignoring
immediately said that is absent of threat.
a threat of force that is a force against a person or their property, not and
Right.
their property or
Right,
their
and
property.
you know what a good instance of that would be, like domestic violence. Like if I break my phone by myself, that's not a violent crime. But if I'm arguing with my girlfriend and I break my phone in front of her,
That's still not a
that's
crime.
essentially a threat. That's a
That's
threat
not
to
a
them.
crime. That's not a threat.
It's not a threat for me to damage my own
No.
property
Yes,
in
it's
front.
not a
Okay,
crime.
cool.
You're wrong. You're making shit up again.
All right.
Yes, that's not a threat.
I could
gave
throw
you
shit
Sessions
around my
versus
house, and it's my
Diama,
house,
which
and I'm
sets
not.
the
I'm not
Sessions
threatening.
versus
I'm not
Diama. You
threatening
can
any.
filibuster
I'm
and
not
talk over me
threatening
all
my
you want,
partner.
but you're factually wrong. Sessions versus Diama gives us the criteria of what makes a property crime into a violent crime. I led that off to you. You cannot address that. You cannot address these laws. You just admit to them, and you're saying, well, it's because it's a threat to the first responders. Driving there is a threat to the first responders. That would make every crime a violent crime by that stupid fucking logic, because they can get in a car
No,
accident.
you're
on the way
taking
there.
it to an
Yes.
extreme. And
I'm taking your
you're taking it to
logic
an
and I'm
extreme
applying it to
and-
something else. It's your
No,
logic
you're
is
you're
retarded, and this
taking it
shows
and
it.
you're running as far as you can with it
You're
to try to
making
run it
shit
into
up. That's not the
absurdity.
law. I'm
You're
giving
just
you the
making it
laws.
absurd.
I'm giving you the laws, and you cannot refute
That's
them.
fine. The original prompt wasn't a legal fucking theory. It was that Republicans are more violent, and you wanted to take
This isn't
2
about
months.
that prompt. This is about
It
your
literally
response, your
stemmed
one-word
from that.
response
It
that you
literally
deny.
stemmed
You're
from
running
that.
from the topic because
It's
you
not
cannot
running
win
from the
this by
topic.
being honest. I'm giving you
No, you're
these
so
slam
upset.
dunk answers to show you, and you're running from
It's
it,
not slam
interrupting
dunk.
me.
You're just
You can't
admitting
even let
to
me
being
get a sentence
incorrect.
out without talking over me, because you cannot stop lying. You're a dishonest actor.
That's just
I'm
been the
giving
tone of
you
this whole
Sessions
debate.
versus Diama. I'm giving you
If you're gonna
18
sh-
U.S. Code 16A and
Okay,
B. I'm giving
some
you
property crime
18
can be
U.S.
violent.
Code 844I without the threat to a
Tyler,
human.
some
Yes.
property crime could be violent. It's
Without the
okay.
threat to a
Some-
human, yes or no?
Some crimes,
Yes or no? Without the
some
threat to a
crimes
human,
carry
yes or
an
no?
inherent threat to
Answer
human
the
life,
question.
and
You're
some
dodging
crimes
because you
carry
cannot
an inherent
respond.
threat to human life, like arson.
Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah, an
necessarily
inherent.
mean that.
Thank you for
It
thank you
doesn't
for
mean
saying
that.
yes.
I've heard.
Thank
I'm
you for saying
acknowledging I
yes that
heard
it
you.
and
I'm
yes,
saying yes
an
because I'm
inherent-
saying I heard you. That's all.
whatever.
But you cannot you're so dishonest that you take me acknowledging that I heard you as me giving up the prompt. You've already admitted you're wrong.
That's okay if you misspoke and accidentally agreed to me.
I
and
did
had
not.
to-
I was saying
had to
yes because I
recover.
heard what you
It's fine.
said. Where you're talking over me every time I speak, because as soon as I'm allowed to actually state my case, there's nothing you can say to defend
You're
it.
just repeating the same thing and calling me
Yes, because you're not
dishonest,
addressing
Tyler.
it. I'm not going to stop repeating it until you can actually address it. You keep changing the subject. You keep going to a
I
different
keep
prompt.
saying that some violent crimes, some property crime is violent.
Stop
What
lying.
more do you want than that?
Stop lying. I'm telling you what I want. I've asked the question 9 times, and you just accused me of repeating myself without answering the question. If you burn down a building with nobody in it, it is considered a violent crime, even though there's no threat from your
Yes,
action.
arson is an inherently violent crime because of the threat to life.
Even if the building's empty, yes?
Even if it's empty, because
Yes.
as you nodded along to confluence, you don't know if the fire is going to spread. You don't know if an occupant might come back. Or a
Even if it
homeless
doesn't,
person
though.
sleeping inside.
But that's
Nobody-
not the law. That's a conversation I was having with a buddy. He asked a question. That is not
is
what I'm
law.
saying here.
That's
You're
100%
making
the
shit
law.
up. You're pretending like me chilling and chatting and answering somebody's question is the argument I'm making
All I'm
here.
doing is
Because you
clarifying
cannot
the
beat this
inherent
argument.
threat to arson.
You
It's
cannot
completely
beat
honest.
this argument. That's why you keep changing the fucking
I'm
subject. It's
acknowledging the
dishonest. You
inherent
are
threat
a
to
liar.
human
You
life.
are a
You can repeat it all
liar.
you want.
I
Repeat
am,
it all you
because
want.
you're dodging. There's no threat.
It's not
If you
a
burn
dodge
down
to
an
say
empty
that there's-
building, if there's
Right.
no buildings around, there's one
Yeah.
building in the middle of a field and you burn that down with no threat to any other buildings, completely surrounded by cement, so the fucking building the fire can't spread, that is still a violent crime based on 18
It's still a
USC
violent crime
844I.
because it's just a blatant disregard for human life. Nobody knows that
No
there's
humans are
occupants,
in
that
there.
No one's gonna come back.
An abandoned building.
That's
That's still a violent
in
crime, even
retrospect,
though there's no threat to human life.
because it's an inherent. The crime itself is an inherent threat to human life.
But there's no threat and you can still be charged. See, that's the thing, is every other law, when there's no threat to human life, you can just charge it as a property crime. But arson, you can't. It's always a violent crime, even if there is no threat to a human
Because
life.
it's inherently
Every single
dangerous with
time.
a high risk of injury to first responders or unknown occupants.
That's not what jurisdicts a violent crime. You're adding a clause that is not the law. Can you cite the law that says that? Can you cite me anything that says that?
No,
Because
what
the courts have
jurisdicts it
never
is
taken
the
your
attempted
position.
use or threatened use of
Can you give
physical
me a
force
single
against a
instance?
person or property.
Can you give
Yeah.
me a single instance where the courts have taken your position because it doesn't fucking exist? You're making it up on the fly.
Not making it up on the
No,
fly.
can you give me a single instance? I'm asking you a
I'm
question. Answer it.
agreeing. I'm agreeing.
Can you give me
with
a
all
single
your,
instance? Yes or no? Give me
I
the
agree
instance.
with all your
One, just one.
citations of certain crimes that are
One instance.
inherently
Stop
violent.
dodging. Answer the
It's
fuck.
not
Answer a
dodge.
single
I'm
fucking
telling
question.
you, I agree with your
Can
citations.
you give me one instance
I
where
don't
what you're
disagree.
saying has actually happened?
I
You're
don't
fucking so
disagree.
dishonest, dude.
I don't disagree.
Answer the
with
question.
any
One
of your-
instance. Yes or no?
I don't disagree.
Yes or
with
no?
any of
Stop
your
changing the
court
subject. Can
I'm
you
not
give me
changing the
one
subject.
fucking instance? Yes
Listen
or
to
no?
you. You're purple, dude. Look at you. Holy
It doesn't
shit. I need
fucking
a
matter.
big
Stop
thing.
ad homing. Stop changing the
Oh my
subject.
God.
Answer the fucking question. Yes, dishonest people
you
that
gonna let me?
constantly lie through their teeth piss me off. You are a dishonest actor and you can't answer a single fucking
is sad,
question
dude.
because nobody It is fucking sad. Stop lying.
I'm not lying. I agree with
You
your.
are.
I agree
One
with your
instance. Yes or
citations.
no? Answer the question. One instance. Yes or no? Has a court ever ruled what you're saying is true?
Ruled what I'm saying is true.
Yes
I'm
or
agreeing
no?
with your court
Yes or no?
citations. Why do I
have
need to
any
bring a
court or
citation
law-
when I'm agreeing with your citations that I'm
My
saying
citations say that you're
that
wrong.
arson is an inherently violent crime because of the threat to human life?
That's
period.
not what they say. That's not what they say. You're making that up.
That is why
You're
it
not
is an
agreeing with my
inherently
citations.
violent
You're
crime.
editorializing them. No, it's not. Throwing a grenade into an empty house is also a violent crime. Even if nobody gets hurt, nobody's there, there's no threat to human life from throwing those grenades in somebody's house. The first responders are completely safe because the grenades have already gone off. So your fucking stupid theory is out the window. Still a violent crime.
Right. So you could walk into a house after that you've had known explosions in, and there'd be no perceived threat. There'd be no perceived threat after explosions inside of a house. No risk to first responders. That's fucking rich. You're doing everything retrospective.
The same as breathing in from a fire? The same as breathing. So no. The threat from the first responders driving there is higher.
You tried to say it was.
Can you let me fucking get a sentence out?
Fucking.
Can you let me get a fucking sentence out? You can't even let me get a sentence out.
You should be embarrassed by this.
When a grenade goes into a house and explodes, the threat to the first responders is lower than the threat from getting in a car accident on the way there. And it's still a violent crime. You're just making shit up. It doesn't carry over to any other fucking example that I'm giving you. You're saying you're agreeing with my citations, but the citations are proving you wrong. So if you agree with my citations, you're giving up the prompt. If you don't agree with my citations, that's why you keep editorializing them. You're not agreeing with me. You're lying. I'm giving you all legal precedent.
I'm literally telling you why it's inherently a violent crime, and it's strictly arson that you're going.
Yeah, I get that you're making that up, and I'm giving you the actual reason. You're saying I'm agreeing with that, and then giving me a different reason. It's because you're dishonest. You cannot stop lying. You denied your own words. You pretended I knew what my words were. You've been lying the entire time.
I literally quoted your words.
Yeah, you did, and then you editorialized them after. You quoted things that I said in my introduction for the first part. I literally quoted you verbatim. You said, that's not what I said. I never said
I
that.
said I'm not sure if that's what I said
Man,
because I didn't watch the
no,
debate from 2 months ago.
When you answered somebody's off-topic question, that's what you're saying right now, even though you didn't say it at all in this debate. Yeah, that's true. You're so fucking dishonest. You cannot win this by being truthful. That's why you're deceitful.
That's wild. Wild characterizations
Yeah,
from the
keep
beginning to
saying
the end.
that,
Before
but
you
at the
even
end of
got
the
on
day,
stream, you were making wild characterizations of the
USC
debate.
code 16 A and B. Back what I say. USC
Yep.
USC.
And it's strictly arson because arson is inherently
That's not the
violent.
arson one. You don't even know what you're talking about. That's the
No,
one
I know.
that's
18
property
code
crime.
US, what, 16, the fucking crime of violence definition? No, we got it. It's
you got
attempted
it
use
wrong.
of physical force. We got it.
Yep, and I got Sessions versus Damaya. I also have U.S. States
That's
versus
okay.
Ferguson.
You could say the names
You know what
of them
United States
all you
versus
want.
Ferguson was?
Just keep repeating
It was
the
somebody
names.
burning down an empty building. That's crazy. Somebody burned down an empty building. The fire didn't spread. There was very minimal threat to the fucking people outside with hoses. Still considered a violent crime. Even
Yeah,
if
'cause
first
it's
responders
inherently
don't
violent.
show up, if first responders don't show up and that building burns to the ground like it did in
That's
Minneapolis
right.
during the Black Lives Matter riots,
It's like
still
the
a
word
violent crime.
inherently means
Still a violent
something.
crime. Yeah, I know, right?
Inherently
No
violent.
threat to people. If you're saying it's inherent, even though there's no threat to people, you're conceding the prompt. I've already explained this over and over. You're saying it requires a threat of harm to people. If first responders
it's
don't even
inherent with
show
arson.
up, if they don't even show up, it's
inherent with
still a
arson.
violent
It's
crime.
inherent with
If
arson.
there's
Yeah.
no threat,
It's your only
there's
example,
still a
and it's
violent
inherent with
crime.
arson.
It doesn't matter if it's just one example or many. I'm using this one because it fits the context of the debate, but you're admitting you're fucking wrong and you don't even know it because you don't know what the fucking laws are.
Would you consider smashing open a window of a store that is closed, but in which workers are still inside, though far enough from the window that there's almost no chance of them being harmed, to be a violent act? I'm going to read that again. Oh, that's that simple. Just a simple yes.
Yeah, it's threatening them. Yeah, definitely. It's threatening behavior.
Even
towards people, for sure.
despite you did catch the fact that they are far enough away from the mirror
Yeah,
or the
they're
window.
far enough from the glass, that's fine. No.
But it's still
that's
a violent
that's
act.
Definitely a threat to them. Yep.
Do you consider grabbing another person's phone and throwing it into a pool, despite the fact that there is no danger to their life or well-being, and it's known that they have accident insurance on the phone, to be a violent act?
Well,
So
I
in
would
other
go the
words,
insurance part of
well,
Yeah, the insurance part of it's
knowing that
irrelevant.
there's no cost threat to them is the idea there.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant if it costs zero, if it was a gift or whatever.
Okay.
That's irrelevant to the question. I don't. Fuck, that's a hard. I'm not a lawyer, man. I borrowed my entire arguments from like lawyers, Supreme Court shit.
You personally, based on your
say-
understanding, though.
I would say no. I would say that. Fuck, I don't know. What's the context? Did they say, "Give me your phone, or I'm going to punch you," or they just walk up and snatch it? Because
No
just
context.
robbing
Just
somebody,
walking up,
larceny-
grabbing a phone, and throwing it into the pool.
Yeah, larceny, theft, those are crimes of property. If you hurt the person or threaten the person to do it, then yes, that would. Burglary is a weird one because it does actually require what he's saying. And that's where I think he got this, is he read just burglary and assumed that was the law in total because he doesn't know the laws. But yeah, burglary, theft, if you do threaten, that's when that actually elevates to that level. Arson's not like that. All right, so as we can see from the initial, he denied his own words. He tried to go back to a prompt that isn't the prompt for this debate. He misquoted what I said, saying that me nodding along to Confluence about his off-topic question somehow has anything to do with the debate that I delivered here tonight. And then on top of that, he misquoted the laws to say that he was in favor of them. If you accept I'm right about 18 U.S. 881 or 844I, then you accept that you lose this because there's no threat to a person that's not in the building. When you burn a building down in isolation, with no threat to it spreading, with no first responders there, it's still a violent crime, regardless of the lack of threat. It being inherent still gives up the prompt. Inherent doesn't matter because it still gives up the prompt. It's irrelevant because that particular instance did not show any threat to a person. There's other crimes that could be property crimes, but could also be violent crimes when the context fits. That is the threat to the person that you may be confused about. But this particular crime does not require threat to a person to be a violent crime. You are factually incorrect. The Seventh Circuit Court ruled with me on this. The Sessions versus Denia gives us the criteria how to make a property crime into a violent crime. It's exactly as I stated in this debate. None of that was addressed. All he said is, I'm agreeing with these laws that I can't even repeat back to you, and I cited to you improperly. It's just been dishonest tactic after dishonest tactic, shifting the conversation, shifting the narrative, denying his own words, putting words in my mouth that I never said in this debate. It's all dishonest. This is the most bad faith bullshit I've ever seen. And when I asked for a single example of a law or a system or a court ruling backing what he said, he just dodged the question 15 times and accused me of repeating myself over and over when trying to nail him down, his slimy ass down on a single yes or no question. This is bad faith, dishonest lying. And I hope the judges can see through this shit because I got ick on me from fucking dealing with this shit for so long. I don't need 3 minutes. We're done.
All right. So if you angrily threw your partner's phone in the pool after an argument, that's domestic violence. Some property crime can be property violence. It's crazy that we watched Tyler speak about the debate in advance with Confluence, and then for him to say that Confluence's question was off topic. We literally watched them speaking about the debate. It's completely on topic. Tyler thought I saw that no overlap between property crime and violent crime. That was never the case. I acknowledge some property crime can be violent, and that line is when people come in harm's way. And with things like arson, the one crime listed, there's an inherent threat of harm to people, and that's why it is a violent crime, even when no one's there. Because these are kind of like retrospective judgments of what happened. It's insane to hear Tyler give us talk about being given the ick during this conversation when he's been misrepresenting the conversation tonight before it even started. And let's quote Tyler. I don't need the 3 minutes either. Let's quote Tyler one more time from that previous debate 2 months ago that he's been hung up on since. And you could kind of guess what group of people Tyler's talking about, and if that gives you the ick. And this is a side. Don't use this to judge the debate. Just use it to judge the person. Quote, "We see the most murderous group of people in the country. We have one political party lying on their behalf to pander for their votes and for their funding." I don't know what group he's talking about, but I don't know if I want to be in that guy's circle. And that's my time.